Okay, we're taking a trip down memory lane right here, and what I'm looking at is the very first article I ever wrote for the Chronicle that had a byline on it, and it's dated January 12th, 1969. Appeared in the Sunday Datebook section. I freelanced this on an assignment from the editor of the Datebook, which is the pink section of the Chronicle. The ironic thing about it in our discussion today is that it's about a San Francisco State University communications professor named Dr. Arthur Huff, who had some very unique and different curriculum that he was using to teach the technique of communication. And I had been bugging the editor of this section to see if I could do any stories for him, and he let me go out and talk to Dr. Huff. He printed this article, and as I said, 1969, I was 21 years old when this occurred. And then we're kind of going through some other memorabilia here. I also freelanced both for the Datebook and for Rolling Stone an article about Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. That was 1970. I have all the notebooks that I used in covering the Dan White trial in 1979, where I was one of two reporters allowed to sit inside the protective glass in the courtroom. I have kind of pulled out a selection of some of my front pages articles from way back. Here's an article from November 1978, 2 days after Dan White shot and killed Harvey Milk and George Moscone in City Hall, and my story here about how Dan White got into the building and stuck the gun in and climbed through a window on the side. This is one of a number of stories I wrote covering the zebra street murders in the early 70s, over the winter of 1973-74. Just random shootings of people on the street. More than a dozen were killed. And this is actually, I'm sorry, this is the zebra article, and the one I was holding up before was part of the Patty Hearst kidnapping case that I covered, which was the food giveaway that the Simonese Liberation Army had demanded from Patricia Hearst's father. Another project I did in the early 70s was live and work in a San Francisco firehouse for 6 weeks, and then wrote a series of articles of what it was like to be a firefighter. So these are just some examples of the kind of front page stuff that I covered. Here's a piece about the hot trend of disco dancing when the movie Saturday Night Fever came out in 1978. A front page piece about disco fever in the Bay Area. Again, a lot of this stuff from way back. And of course, after I left the newspaper right at the end of 1980, I went to work for the San Francisco Giants as their publicity director, and spent the next 12 years there handling public relations, team communications, all of our publications, a program and team magazine, that sort of thing. And of course, that involved handling all the media relations for the 1989 World Series, which was interrupted by Loma Prieta earthquake on October 17th, 1989. There were more than 1,000 news media from all over the world in the ballpark that day, getting ready to cover Game 3 of the World Series when the earthquake hit. Suddenly we had no power. Very few people had cell phones at that time. There was no internet, very little cable TV. So getting the word out to the world about what had happened in San Francisco and to the World Series took some time. But one of my treasured mementos from that year was the National League Championship ring that was given to all front office employees after that season.
Let's take a look at that really quick.
So you'll note that it has my name engraved on the side, and over here it says SF4 Chicago 1, which was a reflection of the National League Championship Series that the Giants won over Chicago 4-1. So that's a fun memento. And again, I've got boxes of news clippings and notes from my career that go way back. Again, many years. Giants memorabilia and Chronicle memorabilia. It was quite an experience and a lot of fun.